Welcome to Tech Startup Stories, hosted by Natalie Binns. This is the podcast that takes you behind the scenes of the B2B startup world.
Hi, I'm Natalie Binns, and after many years as a marketing leader in the B2B SaaS industry, I set up Hey Gabby to support startups and scale-ups with their go-to-market and growth needs. I work with so many great founders, and that's led me to want to hear their stories and share them with others. And that's why I set up this podcast. So let's get into this week's podcast. Hi, everyone. This week, I'm excited to speak with Ken Rapp from BluStream. Welcome to the show, Ken.
Thank you for having me.
I'm really excited about this podcast because I feel like you have such an incredible story. So you're CEO of BluStream. Tell us a little bit about that company.
Yeah, so we really are all about helping companies connect with their consumers or their customers after a sale. So what we saw was there's tons of great effort and investments going on pre-sale in the CRM, using CRMs to run campaigns and having websites that are fantastic and filled with great content. And then these days, everybody's got an e-commerce store or an online store, and then we can even track packages right to our doors. So, but when it gets to the doorstep, our next steps are usually from a business development or sales and marketing standpoint are to offer a promotion or ask for a review. Are you ready to leave me a review? And a customer may not have even unboxed it from their kitchen counter yet, and we're sort of peppering with the continued promotional, what we call promotional oriented pre-sale types of campaigns. And the only time we hear really from a customer is when they start unboxing or trying to use the product and they're confused or they're struggling. If we're lucky, they'll call us, and then we have great systems for support, like tickets that you never drop the ball anymore. I remember the old days, even though I'm 35 in here. I remember the old days with a pink slip that I would get from the reception person once a day, like you got to call these people back. But today they have excellent systems to take care of customer support. But there's this amazing opportunity from the doorstep to a delighted customer that there's been no that's a blue ocean. There's been no technology aimed at that. It's hard once you get started with a company to actually continue to solve other problems that aren't your main core in your DNA. And so what we're all about is we started the company and aimed it really at an unmet need, which was the doorstep to delight, we call it, from the time that box arrives till that customer is really genuinely, honestly becomes a brand champion and knows how to use your product, how to unbox it and get to what we call reviews, referrals, and the next purchase for revenue. And so if you like, I'll tell you the story of how it all started, Natalie, if that would be helpful.
Yes, please.
Okay, so I'm a crazy guitarist. I love playing guitar. I play in bands and really committed to music. I think it's a great passion for young people just starting out, as well as anybody. If they stay with a musical instrument, it just helps mental health and all. Anyway, but bottom line is I have a guitar. I'm a pretty good guitarist. I have a bunch of guitars. Don't tell my wife. But I got a new guitar from a new brand I had never owned, and it actually cracked in a cold, dry New England winter. And I have it on my wall still to remind me that type of guitar, which is a well-known brand out in the world, really needs some special care when it comes to humidity. And if it gets too dry, you need to humidify it to keep it healthy and happy and playing well. And I said to myself and my fellow co-founders, boy, why didn't someone tell us? And a co-founder had the same exact thing happen. And we talked about it. It's like, wow, okay, well, you had the same thing. And it's like, why weren't we connected to the company that we bought this beautiful guitar from, acoustic guitar, in a way that was around the product, like not the promotional stuff, but help me. It's almost like when we went on the website, they have tons of content about humidifying their guitar. But as a buyer, I get this guitar, I bring it in, maybe I got it from the store. I didn't have it shipped to my doorstep, but I walked out the store, and that basically got to my doorstep. And from that point on, I just played the guitar and then sat it in the stand. And then it started getting really cold and dry around this time of year, September, October, November in the Boston area. And the guitar was in distress and couldn't talk to me. And so we sat around and started hypothesizing that, boy, if any product came to the doorstep and could be connected to that company in a way that it was just focused on product education, product knowledge, product tips. And there's two things going on: my experience level with that particular type of product and the product's life cycle. Is it a brand new guitar or a brand new bag of smoothies or a brand new sneakers? And basically they have a life cycle, and my experience level goes from beginner to intermediate to expert on that product. And so we stepped back and went out and we hit the streets and asked tons of companies, probably 50, maybe 100 companies before we ever built any technology. And we said, what is it that we could do to help create a connection, a set of dialogues, or what we call a product experience journey that ultimately would allow from that doorstep to delight and then usage and care, to connect a brand to their customer around the product in the center rather than the promotion to the customer in the center of their universe. And so that's what we're all about. We're helping instruments and as well as many other types of products, from food and beverage to wellness to beauty, as well as music. We're helping those companies that provide those products in retail or as manufacturers to be connected to their customer with a very simple software as a service platform. Just like we use HubSpot and Klaviyo and Salesforce, you can now extend that thinking into a purpose-built platform that connects you to your customer around the product in the center.
That's amazing. And I think everyone can relate to buying a product, not necessarily from a specialist retailer or wherever, and not necessarily being an expert and not having that information. And if you're not shown the way in which to deal with that product in whatever environment or whatever capacity, it's not going to give you the value that perhaps you've invested in it for. So I really appreciate that what you're doing, especially given that you're right. We always get send us a review, here's discount, referrers, all of this. And companies are very smart at doing that now. You mentioned Klaviyo. There's other companies out there that do a similar thing that enable retailers to, hit you with the marketing stuff as soon as you've purchased. But I think this is a really valid and valuable tool. So you set up the business, you mentioned co-founders. How did you decide who to bring along for this journey?
Great question. So, really, it's interesting. People who are, first of all, we're all musicians who kind of started it, because we're all focused on a common problem that I call an unmet need. So it's the best people are actually, doesn't matter whether they're experienced in business or technology. It's their passion around the problem to help a company connect with their customer through the product connection, which is what was new at the time. And so helping, most important was to have passionate co-founders about solving the problem. And I guess I look at myself as the straw that kind of mixes up all the ingredients. So I to find people, and it's very, very important. One of the co-founders who really saw this even before any of the rest of us, he's a fantastic kind of technology innovative guy. But he knew he wasn't the guy who could balance the checkbook and, get the funding that we needed and actually figure out how to build the company from, scratch. And so he and I bumped into each other at an entrepreneurial event, and he told me about his guitar. And I said, well, I have a guitar like that. I think there's a very important lesson there, Natalie, that he knew he knew where his edge was, and he didn't have the skills to do that part of it. He also knew that he wasn't really a software developer at the time. He was more of an inventor, an innovator. And so he had an old friend who had a son at the time, has a son who is now one of the co-founders here, who wrote the software to do some of the important back office platform technology building that he knew he couldn't do as well. And I knew that we were going to need to go to market. And so we had some friends that you get people to volunteer, and if you buy them lunch, maybe they'll help you a little bit. So it's just scrappy, just scrape and claw and get into the market. And the most important thing that we were doing is listening to businesses and their consumers about the problem to validate the problem was real. Because sometimes we all think we have a problem, and it is a problem, but it isn't a market problem. It's an individualized problem. So I'll tell you a funny story. So we went out to these 2 national music company meetings a year called NAMM, the National Association of Music. And we went out to the one in LA and basically hung around in the front foyer and would stop people who had a guitar on their back. We would just stop them and say, "Gee, do you play guitar?" Obviously they do if they have a guitar in their back. And basically you would ask them, "So are you aware of the sensitivity of humidity to a guitar?" And we were taking notes, and we went out and talked to 50 plus players, and then we walked around the show floor, and we talked to a bunch of brands about, did they know about it? And most of the manufacturers and retailers, they knew all about it. So there's this disconnect between the knowledge base of a consumer and the brands and these wonderful companies that have all the knowledge on their websites that you needed, but there was no connective tissue at the right moment in time. And I have another example that then we started looking around our own lives and the things we were buying. And I'll give you a funny example, which is because I don't have any hair. You can imagine, I have very close people to me who are trying to prevent themselves from losing their hair, and you buy a supplement or a remedy, and if you've ever tried to read the side of the bottle or the instructions, it's very hard to know what to do, and it doesn't happen overnight. Very important is, our best customers, the product itself needs a little guidance. And so it could be a 30-day, a 60-day, a 90-day process before you start to really see the results. The other day, my wife said she had, we had a little gardening that she was doing, and there was some area she put some new grass down, but we had to break up the soil. And she was frustrated 2 weeks in, like, "Where's the grass?" And I said, "See, someone should have been supporting your journey here to use the grass seed and help you make sure you watered it when it wasn't raining." And then, because it really takes 2 to 3 weeks, and lo and behold, within the next week, the grass came up. So my point is, a product like bottled water is not really for a company like ours. We can't help, we all know how to open the top of the bottles and drink water. But it's when you think about products and services where there's a little bit of guidance that would really go a long way to help a consumer or a customer completely love your brand and get the most out of the product, married with their experience, help them come up the skill curve and help manage the life cycle of the product. We create incredible connections. And a couple of data points for you. Our connection rate post starting what we call a PX journey, a product experience journey, similar to campaigns pre-sale, but with all the dynamic dialogues of asking questions, getting feedback, making sure the next messaging is personalized to that consumer based on real feedback. We have a 90+% retained consumer base out there on behalf of our clients, our brands that we work with. So we're a private label where it would be the XYZ brand supplement that's sold, powered by BluStream messaging and our PX messaging. At 90+%, we see a 30% reduction in churn or increase in retention for repeat sales. And as you know, most businesses have under 30% of their customers buy a second or third time. That's just best practice, 20 to 30% buy again. And we just crush that through this connection. Consumers love it. It's like, thank you for helping me know how to garden or add, water my lawn and put in new grass seed, I'll buy more of that and tell my friends compared to, wow, the grass didn't come up and it was a month and I don't know what I did wrong. Was it not enough water, too much water, blah, blah, blah. So you asked me the question about co-founders. It's the belief in a common vision is most important. And then it's the skill set that you can complement each other and take on jobs and be flexible. I actually say there's no such thing as a job description at BluStream. We call them job outline. We put an outline together, and if someone needs help over there, go help them. And so we're all pulling on the rope at the same time. That's the power of a great culture.
Great. I'm curious, in your own product with your own customer base, do you follow the same kind of methodology? Because although, it's a very different environment and, you don't have to water it or give it humidity or anything, how are you handling customers utilizing your product to their full potential?
Yeah, so that's an excellent question. I'm a big believer in, just over invest in our customers' relationship. So we have a team of people here called customer success leaders, and you'd call it white glove any customer, whether it's a small company who's just starting and has 500 new consumers or new buyers a month, or if it's someone who's got tens of thousands of buyers a month. You get someone from our team who's going to help you through this process. And even though it's only an hour every couple weeks, and the startup is a few clicks to get you going on a journey, we want to make sure we're learning from your experiences, every one of our customers' experiences, so that we can get better and we can get smarter. And then our job is to take that knowledge and turn it into more self-serve tools. And that's sort of in our journey, it's a continuous investment. It will never go away. We are committed to our customer success. And as you can tell, I'm 35 in here, but I've been through this a few times. And the way to build momentum in the market is to get your customers talking about you in the market, about the value you're bringing. And so the best way to do that is to make sure that you're listening and B, automating whatever will help make the job as small as possible for a company or a brand or a product marketer, product management, a business owner to be able to utilize the technology.
Absolutely. And, obviously it's extremely common to have a customer success team in this day and age in a SaaS company. I think it's interesting you mentioned self-serve as well. What I have experienced, what I've experienced myself is that many companies either choose to go down the kind of enterprise traditional sales model where they have a sales function that handholds a customer through the sales process and then hands it over to a customer success person. And there's, by contrast, the opposite of that, which is the PLG, the product led growth angle, which is very much self serve. Sales potentially pick up the odd enterprise big deal, but for the most part, the product sells itself. You sign up, you put your credit card details in, you transact, and you might get a customer success function, but for the most part, you're kind of on your own with a bit of a drip feed campaign. How would you describe the go-to-market that you have at BluStream?
Yeah, so it's the former. It as we started intentionally was every customer gets a customer success leader, and depending on their size and scope and the amount of effort they want to put in on their own to the journeys, because our journeys we have an automated journey builder, but we have companies that then make that a career opportunity for their business, and they have in marketing or product management or product marketing people who are looking at the data and improving their journeys all the time. And so our technology enables that. And it's our team that points things out to them. Hey, did you know? Look at these messages or dialogues, we call them, because they're always two-way, like ask a question, get the feedback, send the next message based on feedback, monitor, see what they click for tips and education that they wanted to learn. And then, so our team would be looking at that and helping our customer client monitor that. And then give a call or shoot an email. So we're keeping an eye on them. And then we have other customers that said, no, I used a journey builder. I got a quick round of edits for, in an afternoon, and then I'm running. Like, leave me alone. I'm good to go. So, but we keep an eye on everyone. We have tools that are looking at the data, and we can point out, did you know that this dialogue is working and that dialogue is not getting the same amount of engagement as this dialogue? And so we're really on the side of wanting to have the human touch as support as much as our customer needs it. Now, in saying all that, we have an overwhelming amount of interest from companies that want to operate in the second phase type of business model you described. I mean, overwhelming, Natalie. We have we we have so many businesses that are coming to us and saying, "Look, we just want to be able to do this with a couple clicks, and then we'll turn it on. We're ready to go. You guys have solved the problem we really want, and we don't want to talk to you. We actually thank you for offering, but we'd like to be able to do this on our own." And so we're now about to launch in the fourth quarter a startup quick start capability that will allow some of the mid players, small to mid players, be able to go on with a few clicks and then edit what they want, and then start to experience that increased connection with their customer that's driving, like I said earlier, the reviews. So we don't ask for a review until, it's a rule of thumb, until you've had 5 messages or dialogues around the product and how to use it and your skill level and the information that would allow you to be successful with the product. And in fact, our technology asks, so how we doing on a scale of 1 to 10? Are you feeling the love, or are you having any challenges? And anybody below an 8 is getting another question like, geez, what is it? Is it that you're struggling with is the product not working? Would you like some more information to help you understand how to use the product, or is it something else? And based on that response, we move them through the journey to, here's a video on how to, maybe help you. Did that work? Or we'll run them right to support. Like, okay, you let us have one of our brand, our customer's brand support team talk with you to make sure that you're delighted with our process. So what happened there is kind of a rescue agent in terms of rescuing a consumer or a customer who isn't between 8 and 10 on the scale of 1 to 10. And those that are on the scale of 8 to 10, then we ask them, here's the link to our review. Would you mind leaving a review? And the reviews are over the top. Like they're just always excellent. So there's this curve, right, where we all buy things and we're excited, and we come up to this peak of enthusiasm and emotional connection to our brand. And it's right there after in that doorstep to delight where we drop, because I don't want to call that brand and let them know that I just can't figure it out. Like, why do I have some extra screws, left over with this, grill I'm building, or boy, the sneakers don't quite fit exactly the way I thought they would. But I don't want to bother them. And so we fall off, and then we become that, 70% that doesn't buy from them again. Whereas if you're up here and you catch them right there when they're opening the box of sneakers and start educating. Did you know that if it rains out, you can still run? We have a video here on how to prevent the sneakers, how to dry your sneakers best. Or even if you wanted to learn about or were interested in some rainproofing of your sneakers, we can tell you that. If they clicked on that link, we connect them back. And what's beautiful, Natalie, is all this content is on the website. Every brand has all the content you'd ever need, but the consumer gets out of sync with their ownership experience. We call it that product experience, product ownership experience gets out of sync with all the content. Because before then, it's all about, like, I'm going to buy these sneakers. I look them up. I compare them to other things. I go to the website. I see some information about why they're better than other things. But then after I start, I hit my Shopify or my WooCommerce, or I buy the sneakers. They're shipped to my door. Maybe I'll go out and Google it, and I'll get a wrong answer, right? Because there's a competitive, e-commerce and the internet is a great thing, but it's also commoditized answers. You can get answers that are the wrong answers. So as a brand, if you've got all the content, what you want to do is get it in your consumer or customer's hands at exactly the right time. And so that's what a product experience journey is all about.
Sure. So the business has been going for quite a few years now. You mentioned funding earlier. What has been your funding journey?
So excellent question. And one of the things that I was thinking you might ask that question to this, thinking about is I've been lucky enough to work with some great teams on some unmet needs, and fund those companies and grow those companies and then join forces with other companies that had distribution worldwide that we wanted to get to. And so lucky in my life, touch wood. And I figured since this is my third or fourth time, it would be like a straight line from here to there. But all I'll say is it's not. So starting out, I figured we could, you know, fund a little bit of the development and then fund a little bit of the go to market, and then we'd be off to the races. But you learn, and it's not a straight line. It's a zig and a zag, and two steps forward, a step back, and then step sideways, and then keep going. So I find that if you're going to go the route of funding through angel groups, through family offices, through venture, make sure you're basically getting married. It's not a oh, I have some friends and family that will loan me money or provide me with some capital, and it's just going to work. And so my guidance here is nothing ever works. Even when you've done it many times, it doesn't work as a straight line. So remember, be very, very careful about who you go out to raise capital with, so that you think of it in terms of they're with you for the long haul. And I'm happy to say, I have a cohort of investors who have continued to work with us over the life cycle of this company. And the company, when it started 10 years ago, the way it was solving the problem we're describing here is with an IoT sensor, which was monitoring humidity. So it's thinking on an app. So you think about the first story was about a guitar, and putting a sensor in the guitar was the way to know if it was in distress, give that product the ability to tell you there was a problem. As we moved forward, it really became obvious that the sensors were IoT is a whole different animal. It's a reselling business. It's a sell-up business, and our cloud intelligence and our engine, the SaaS platform that we built, really didn't need sensors. It was all about the dialogues, and so we pivoted 3 years ago to just provide the SaaS dialogues on product journeys. And one of the co-founders actually spun out and is our partner in IoT. And so if we have any business or products that need some technology to be monitoring their health with temperature or humidity or motion or any of those things that Bob does, he's fantastic. So we connect people up with him, and we're all about the dialogues of that ownership journey around the product.
Right. Fantastic. You mentioned earlier you don't have job descriptions. Tell me how you built the team over that time.
6 months at a time. So we look at the next 6 months and we say, what is it that we're trying to accomplish in the next roughly plus or minus 6 months? And it just works out. June and December are great months to, be celebrated and look at milestones. And so we actually organize for success around the key objectives for that next 6 months. So I might be, focused on a roadmap 6-month period where we're going to launch a product. Like we're in one right now. Our next launch is going to be a soft launch in early Q4. And then in January, we're going to make some announcements about our self-serve and how, any company we feel so badly because so many businesses have come to us and they want to start. And then they're like, guys, just let me at it. And we're like, well, we're really white gloving you right now, but we know exactly what to do here. So we have our, like I said earlier, we go out to our customer base and some of these new potential customers and say, here's our designs. What do you think? So we start collaborating. Very, very collaborative culture here. And so we're right now in a heavy 6-month period of gonna launch product. And then, but the first half, it's kind of interesting. We put together what we call a lightning strike around the go to market. And so in June, we went to a couple of events, and we had a major announcement and a technology we call our Journey Builder AI, where you can go in and type in your product name, your company name, and your product name, and we will provide you with about a dozen dialogues that you could engage a customer around that doorstep to delight right out of the Journey Builder, including a workflow that we can load into our system. And, then you can go in and edit it and put your own voice in as a business. And so the first half of this year, we just rallied the whole team, development, operations, customer success, sales, marketing. We all rallied around a couple of events we ran in early June. So the reason it's job outlines is because if you have a common goal, everybody, if I'm a software developer and I'm writing code to do a certain piece of our platform, knowing where we're headed with that actually means you can make decisions, and you're empowered to make sure the software is going to support what we're aiming at in the market. If I'm in marketing or sales right now, and we have a heavy investment in product development over this next 6-month period, I know that what I'm doing in the market, I want to bring feedback to the development team by testing what we're doing. So it isn't, we're all in little silos in our cubicles and doing our own jobs. It's a common vision that we work on together. Like I said, I'm the straw that kind of mixes it all up. And the power of our team is just incredible. And I think that's the lesson there, is to make sure that the whole team, top to bottom or bottom to top, as I call it, from a servant leadership standpoint, knows exactly where you're headed. And then it's a force multiplier. One plus one can be negative. It can be less than one. 1 plus 1 can be more than 2.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, in terms of you're a very seasoned entrepreneur and founder. This is not your first business or startup. What advice would you give? What advice would you give to anybody starting out right now with their own tech business and they're looking to kind of really make it in the market? What advice would you give to them?
Excellent question. So I have 2 thoughts. From the beginning of my career, I joined a company that at the coffee machine on the first day, they were telling me the story of how that company was started. And it was started without a product. And I'm not saying to start a company without a product, but the concept there was, it was started by going out into a market that you believed you could build a product around, and hitting at least 50 companies, 50 friends, 50 colleagues in an area, a focus area, and ask them what keeps them up at night. Ask them for what isn't being solved, and they'll tell you lots of symptoms. And so then you need your team to sort of sift through the symptoms and land on the technology solution using technology, solution using technology. So very first day of my career was I learned about going into the market to understand the problem first. So my first piece of your question, I would say, is just make sure the problem you're solving is big enough to support a business. And in any of the training I've done in local universities and things, it's always get out of the building and talk to 100 potential customers, 10 at a time. You talk to 10, you're going to learn. Talk to 10 more, you're going to learn. So get out of the building and talk to your potential customers before you take that big life decision, which is a long road. It's decades and decades. Second thing is that it's not a straight line. So you've got to continue that mentality of listening. Just put something on the market, put it in the hands of your customers. Now you really know. It's an old concept from In Search of Excellence, which is decades and decades old now, from Tom Peters, which was ready, fire, aim. Not that I like the metaphor, but think about if this is your target and you've got a bullseye and then rings around it, get on the field of play, get something out there, and then you're going to move toward the center. And so when you put your product for the first time in real customers' hands and they're willing to pay you real dollars from their hard-earned revenue, then you know you're on the target at least. And now continue to ask questions and move yourself toward the center. So A is solve a real problem, and B is it's not a straight line, and get on the field to play.
Love it. Thank you so much for your time, Ken. It's been my absolute pleasure to have you on the podcast today.
You too, and I want to thank you for what you're doing. As you said, I've been lucky enough to have the experience of many startups, either coaching or actually leading. And what you're doing to share this sort of under the covers view of the challenges of startups is fantastic. Thank you for doing that, Natalie.
Thank you.
That's it for this episode of Tech Startup Stories. Have a story you'd like us to share or a topic you'd want to cover? Reach out and we'd love to hear from you. Until next time, take care.